All right, it's time to start note investing. So where do I begin? What are the phases of note investing? Find out next on this episode of the Paperstac Podcast. Hey, welcome back to the Paperstac Podcast. My name is Rick Allen, and this is my esteemed Brett Burky.
Yep, that's me. That's me.
It's funny, his wife calls him Handy Mandy.
And she calls me Mr. Lopart.
Mr. Lopart, that's what it is.
Handy Mandy was the guy who always fixed things. I'm Mr. Lopart. Like, I try to fix things, and I screwed up. Like, last night I tried to caulk a window. I didn't know the window it was wet. And so, like, the caulk just kind of it didn't stick, so that's why she calls me Mr. Lopart.
All right, well, fair enough. I mean, I like it. So
I do have an update on the baseboards.
The baseboards. Tell me about the baseboards.
So if you watched last episode, I had an extra 37 baseboards that I painted. And so I got them sold. So I got them sold already, but I had to find out how many I actually bought, and so we could do the unit cost. And so I called and I said, hey, look, I can't see my unit cost on this receipt. Can you tell me how many I bought? And he said, you bought 30. I was like, well, that's strange. I have 37 still sitting in my garage. And the guy on the other end was like, well, you're going to have to pay a restocking fee. We're going to have to come out there and you're going to pay for us to come and get them. And I was like, slow down there. I've already painted them. So what are you going to do with them? He said, can't do anything with them. So somebody, and surprisingly not me, screwed up.
So you didn't pay for them?
No.
So you got 37 extra boards.
37 extra boards.
So what did you end up doing with the extra boards? You painted them already, so you couldn't give them back. Nor would you want to give them back because they gave them to you.
Right.
And then they wanted to charge you to take them back.
And I have a restocking fee. I was like, okay.
Well, now I'll hold on to the free 37 boards.
Yeah, they're actually, at this moment, the guy's at my house in my garage.
Picking them up? Mm-hmm. So did you sell them?
Yeah, I sold them. He's leaving a check.
So you sold them so essentially, then you got your baseboards for free.
Yeah, pretty much I did, yeah.
You didn't think about that, did you?
I didn't think of it like that, no.
You just Mr. Magoo'd your way into that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I kind of did. Yeah, basically I'm going to use the money for him to do more work around my house. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it all worked out. It all worked out.
Yeah.
So we're where we are on the doorstep. We're leaving tomorrow for Las Vegas.
Yes, that'll be fun.
Going out to the Land Profit Generator Conference.
Right. Going to be talking about notes at the Land Profit Generator with Jack Bosch, and hopefully learn some things about that industry so we can better serve the people who are doing land notes. Mm-hmm. A lot of those people are newer that are going to be there. Some are more experienced. You're going to have all the coaches and some of the experienced people. But it segues good into whatever topic is today, which is...
What is it?
Well, our topic is about, if you're new to notes, I get the phone calls where people say, hey, look, I saw this thing, I want to buy it, it's non-performing, and it's in New Jersey, and it's a second, and they haven't been paying for 5 years. And it's like, whoa, why don't you buy this performing note in Florida that's been paying for 15 years and just see how it goes around the track?
So you're saying it's their first time, and they're jumping into the deep end of the pool, and they've never
worked out, and they're putting 225 on the bar. That's the kind of thing they're doing.
Hey, that's okay. There you go.
So they're just jumping straight in. It's like, if you're gonna start somewhere, you should probably start here, and then as you learn things, maybe you can go, oh, like there's things you'll learn along the way.
So the stages, like what are the stages of a note investor? Like kind of like going from when you're a human being, you go from not doing anything, I just lay there, to I can crawling, to walk, to run, and then I can play some organized sports. Maybe you play some, more elite sports. Maybe you're on a college team. Yeah. And then you go into the pros.
Yeah, something like that. Like,
okay.
Kind of like how I'm dealing with that one that's not paying right now, and I'm learning things I didn't know. The one I bought recently in Kentucky is not paying.
They stopped paying?
They never paid. So I haven't got any payments yet. But I'm learning, what does this mean and how do I do it? So,
man, it's such a different time. I mean, when I got into it, I sort of just walked into the deep end of the pool and just kind of figured it out. But there's definitely some stages. And I think stage one, and you could probably all guess what I'm going to say if you've listened to any podcast at all, is education. It's the learning the learning stage. It's
Yes.
the very beginning. Learn the foundations of note investing. And if you're coming from the real estate space, maybe it's a easier transition. But if not, you want to learn all the things about note investing, which is the difference between a performing note and a non-performing note, the difference between judicial and non-judicial, all the documentation that goes along with that, what are the different documents in the collateral file, the note, the mortgage, the assignment, the allonge. What is the assignment transfer? What's the allonge transfer? What if I'm missing an allonge? Where might I find it? A lot of people don't even realize that to transfer the allonge, by the way, transfers the note, but to transfer the note from one person to the other, it's not always an allonge. There's a rubber stamp that they put right on the note that says pay to the order of.
That is so funny.
And people will come to me and say, look, I'm missing an allonge. I'm like, well, did you look on the note for a rubber stamp that says it? And they're like, no.
We literally just had that question. Before this show, I was writing, someone asked, what is an endorsement stamp?
An endorsement stamp on the note. Did you know that they run out of blank space? And sometimes they put it on the back of the note. So if you're looking at a digital copy and they didn't scan the back page, the back side of the back page, you might be missing an allonge that's really already there. And so those are important things to kind of to learn when you're doing the learning the foundations. Something else is you need to learn to work your way around a financial calculator.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes.
This is where you learn whether it's a spreadsheet that you've made up or somebody's given you, or a financial calculator like the 10BII. You really need to become very adept at using that, because that's going to be part of the foundation moving forward, is being able to run numbers.
Yeah, I remember when he showed me how to understand the 10BII, it changed everything about how you even look at it. It's all just numbers and yields at that point.
It becomes numbers and yields, and it's, when it's just, if it's a performing loan, it becomes fairly simple. You can calculate your yield, much like you calculated the yield on the one you purchased, right? Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, it becomes non-performing. Now what?
Now there's no yield. So
now there's no yield, but also you have to look at okay, well, what's my underlying collateral worth? And so in the foundation period, you're going to want to learn all those things, but you're also going to want to learn, how do I evaluate what's the value of a house, the underlying collateral? What's securing this note? How do I know what this is worth? And you can't really just take everyone's word for it. Being that I was in the real estate investment space forever, I had this guy send me, people text me all the time. I don't know how they got my number. They just text me and they say, hey, I'm sending you 2 houses in Lakeland to look at. I'm like, okay, sure. Send me 2 houses in Lakeland. So I look at them and I'm like, these don't look very good. But the guy kept hammering me, hey, what's your thoughts on these? Can you give me some feedback? And I'm like, okay, I'll give you some feedback, but it's not going to be coated in sugar. And the guy was selling a house it's a 2-1. He said it was a 3-1. He said the square footage was 1,086 square feet. It's actually 816 square feet.
Wow.
So we're off by 33% there. He's selling it for $157 and says it's worth $240.
What?
Right? So I go look at the numbers on it and I'm like, okay, absolute tippy top dollar, I'm getting $170 fixed up. And that's using comps in the area that are just to the nines. Just they just dialed this house in. The reality is this house should be selling to somebody for probably $80,000 to $90,000 max, with a max fixed up after repair value of $155,000, $165,000.
Wow.
And so you want to become very good at looking at the values and establishing not only what's the value of the house right now, what's the value of the house when I fix it up, what are the current active pendings and solds. You got to look at all of them.
And you can find that via Zillow.
Yeah, you can do it on Zillow, Redfin. If the easiest thing, PropStream is a great one. They don't really show you pendings, but if you can look at Realtor.com, will kind of get you in the neighborhood. If you have access to the MLS, that's easiest. So, not to get too much into the weeds, you want to learn how to establish the value of the underlying collateral. Right. Because at the end of the day, if they stop paying, That's what's securing you, right?
Yeah. That's why I'm not too. Right now, I'm kind of.
Yeah, I think your house is worth quite a bit of money.
Mm-hmm. It's like 160, something like that.
Yeah. So theoretically, you're good right now. You gotta get them to start paying again. And then in this stage of you want to go practice. Once you've learned the fundamentals, you want to practice, right? So in softball, we'll go through fundamentals in practice. We'll just hammer the fundamentals. Mm-hmm. And then before a game, we'll have a scrimmage, which is a practice game. You need to get in and practice on this stuff. And I mean, the note simulator, great place to practice. Mm-hmm. It's a great place to practice. Paperstac is a good place to get in there and at least start looking at deals and analyzing them.
Right.
So that's stage one, is education. Learn the foundations. The next stage is right when you come out of there, and this stage, actually, you revisit this stage later on, but you want to establish, what's my investment strategy? What am I trying to do now with notes?
Right.
Is this a full-time business, or am I just supplementing my investment strategies? Am I also buying stocks? Am I also buying real estate? And I just hey, I want to buy some notes too. I want to diversify. Mm-hmm. So full-time business, supplemental investing. Then you want to look at look, how much capital do I have?
That's a good one.
Right? Am I going to be going into this brokering deals? A lot of people start out in the brokering world. Or am I going in to buy performing loans because I just want the cash flow? Or am I trying to get the house cheaper? Which is that's how I got into it, is I was flipping houses. And so I had the opportunity to buy a frame duplex for $8,400, to buy the debt for $8,400. And like I said, that deal was a bit of an anomaly because I ended up being able to talk to the borrower prior to, and I knew they were going to sign the house over to me, and I knew that the house was, I could double my money at the very least. Mm-hmm. And we quadrupled it. So that was, establish what's your strategy here? Maybe you're look, I understand this, but I want to partner up with somebody. Maybe I've got the cash. Mm-hmm. This is a good one. Maybe I've got the cash and I want to find somebody who's reputable in the business. I want to go to a conference and talk to people. Have you been doing this? Hey, do you partner? Do you JV? I need somebody to work with me. Let me work my way around the track.
That's pretty typical.
That's very typical. Or maybe you're I really like note investing. But after reviewing it, I don't know that I'm going to have the time to tackle all of this right now. I'd like to learn a little bit as I go. Maybe you invest in a note fund. Mm-hmm. So you really have to look at, what's my strategy? Where am I wanting to go with this?
Or you have the mentor approach as well. Not only the JV, you can have a Kevin Shortell.
Kevin Shortell. That's another thing. And that will honestly, oftentimes what I find is that comes after the foundation.
Yeah.
Because people get into it and they're like, okay, I feel good, but I really need somebody else to kind of hold my hand. I need a Sherpa to kind of guide me through this.
Yeah, I can see that. A lot of people, they think they know the right thing to do, and they're on the fence, and it's just that last little nudge. But the thumbs up from Kevin gives them okay, I can go for it.
Sometimes it does give them, and if you jump in there with any mentor, Kevin, and they're like, yeah, look, they'll walk you through the buying process, but then they can be there as a leaning post in case you run into some questions along the way, and you're like, hey, I bought a performing loan. It's not performing now. What do I do? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's it. So you learn the foundation, then you got to establish, hey, what am I going to do? Because you don't want to try to do everything at once. You don't want to say, well, I'm gonna broker and I'm going to buy a performing loan and I'm going to buy a non-performing loan, because the reality is you need to focus on one of the disciplines at the beginning.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You can't do it all. You're not learning to grill and bake and saute all at once. You learn them different things, you master it, you move on to the next one. And maybe if you're forced to learn a new one because you bought a performer and it's a non-performer now. Mm-hmm. Not the end of the world, it happens. It's part of the business. Mm-hmm. So once you've established your strategy, now it's time to buy your first note.
Right.
And that involves a lot of other things. That involves, 1, sourcing deals, 2, talking to sellers and asking the right questions, right? Do I know what to ask for them? I've learned all the fundamentals, but once you get into it, am I going to forget something? Do I have a checklist? I need to ask for the payment history. I need to ask for the servicing notes. I need to ask for the origination documents, right?
Yeah, that'd be good to have.
Of course.
Up,
talking. So you're sourcing deals. You're talking with sellers. You're learning to run the due diligence, the armchair due diligence, right? To looking through the notes, to looking through the collateral file. Do you see certain things in there? And then obviously running the numbers, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, this is all about what? Making money.
Yeah.
You gotta know what you're doing, making money. But Paperstac has solved a lot of the problems with regards to one, sourcing deals. You have an endless supply of inventory. It seems like it's just constantly revamping. There's always a place to go look and at least look at deals.
Yeah.
We make communication very transparent. File sharing is very easy. Everything can be done right there on your platform. And then we also handle the actual process of buying the note. Negotiations. How are you taking title to this? Something people need to think about.
That's very important. We did that in our last episode. Look it up. Personal or LLC.
There you go. Personal name, LLC. Maybe you're doing it under your self-directed retirement account through a custodian. There's some there's some details you need to nail down there. Drafting a purchase sale agreement. I couldn't imagine having to come into this business and draft a purchase sale agreement. I wouldn't know where to begin. And it's not like you're going to go to just an attorney and say, here, I need a purchase sale agreement for a note sale. Most of the attorneys are going to look at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, the good thing about our purchase sale agreement is we're like the traveler's insurance commercial. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
Yeah.
And we put it into the PSA. And it's been updated so many times with, ooh, that should be in the PSA.
Yeah.
No.
So, and then, then negotiations, pricing. You just want to make sure you're getting the right price on the deal, and that really is that's tied directly to lockstep with what's your investment strategy.
Correct.
If it's a non-performer, you're not paying 80 cents of the dollar, and you're not looking at the interest rate of yield because it's not paying right now.
Yeah.
No, so it does take into account whenever you're trying to figure out, how much money they're behind or how far behind are they, right? Because it's still accruing interest. And if it's at 8, 9, 10% accruing interest, that's great. If it's at 1 or 2% accruing interest, it's not really accruing a lot, so it makes it really tough to say, okay, because the borrower could just simply catch up, and then you're like, well, that stinks. The next phase is, so we're assuming you've purchased an asset. You've gone through all the steps, the hurdles, you've got servicing set up. Now you need to start working your deals or adding value to the assets, right? If it's a performing loan, well, you shouldn't have much value to add. You really are just coupon clipping at that point. You're buying cash flow. But if it's a non-performing loan, now you got to do your loss mitigation strategies. Now you got to start getting in touch with the borrowers or having your servicer get in touch with the borrowers and really pushing and working and saying, look, we need to work to a resolution. And that resolution may be you're modifying their loan. The resolution may be they're going to go to a state or a government funding program like the Hardest Hit Fund, right, to go get funds. Or it may be you're going to give them some money for the house. Say, I'm going to give you some cash for keys. We looked at this. You probably can't really afford it. The house is in disrepair. Even if we get you caught up, are you going to replace the air conditioner, the roof, right? Or ultimately it could end up in foreclosure. So you need to start adding the value and then understand that if you do foreclose or you do get the house back, well, now what are you going to do with the real estate?
Yeah, especially if it's not close by.
Right? And so in this phase, and it's usually in this phase, is when you start adding your boots on the ground. That's when you start building your team on the ground. Because for the non-performing stuff, you're building your team on the ground. If it's performing, I'm not going to go out and find a contractor or a handyman or a real estate agent because it's a performing loan. You could reach out to them and say, hey, I just want to build my boots on the ground right now because I got a performing loan, and the thing never stops performing.
Let me ask you a question then. So wouldn't that be a part of your due diligence before going into it knowing, hey, this thing's non-performing? If you're buying a non-performing.
Sure, if it's non-performing.
Then you're already looking at contractors, rates and stuff like that.
Yeah, you want to get an idea, and there's tools out there where you can get an idea of like, look, what like a geographical cost per rehab. I think Home Depot's got one on there.
Really?
I forget which one it is, but there's a website out there where you can kind of get an idea of the rehab cost per area, right? But the reality is you're probably not even going to set that up in due diligence. You're going to wait. You're going to wait till you...
Yeah, because you don't even know if you're going to get the house.
You don't know if you're going to get the house. So that really, that happens when you're working your assets. You're like, okay, this one's going to become REO. This one's in this phase of the foreclosure process. I got to start setting up some boots on the ground. The next thing you need to do is the next phase really is you've been through a deal or two, and now you need to decide, okay, am I building, what am I doing? Where am I going? Go back and revisit your
thesis.
Your investment thesis, right? Because you may say, okay, I really like the performing phase. I'm just going to buy performing, and I'm good with my current funds, my self-directed retirement account, whatever. And I'm not really going to be doing that many deals, so I can manage this with a spreadsheet. Or you maybe say, hey, no, I'm going to keep doing this. Maybe it's not a full-time business, but I've got, several $100,000 or several $1 million to deploy. I need to start setting up something that's scalable. I can't be bouncing back and forth. I need a project management tool. I need a CRM system. Do I need to hire somebody? Am I hiring a virtual assistant to help me with this? Am I hiring somebody that's local to help me with this? And really start treating it more like a business and having, like, for instance, you want to have your SOPs, your standard operating procedure, right? So an example of that would be, what happens when this goes non-performing or when a loan goes non-performing? What are the steps I'm doing to cure it?
Right.
So you want to have something, a checklist that you can follow. I know you're huge on checklists, right? Something that's repeatable. Something that keeps you, it lays the swim lanes down. You can't get outside of it. Things don't get missed. It's a crack catcher. It blocks the cracks, so nothing falls into the cracks, right?
Yeah,
So
I like that.
You want to really start building to scale. And you might not scale huge, but at least you want to have systems in place, because the reality is, if you're not doing this as a full-time business, if you're not hiring a bunch of people, you're going to need the recipe to follow when things happen. And you don't have to say, okay, what do we do here again? It's a we got to do, we wait 45 days, we wait 60 days. Okay, at 90 days, we reach out. You just have to have your loss mitigation strategies set up and in place. And oftentimes what you can do is you can set that up and hand it right to your servicer and say, here are the strategies that I use to follow.
That's cool.
Not every servicer is going to be like, hey, we're set to that, but some servicers will work with you and say, this is your recipe. On this day, I want to offer them this. Here's what I'm willing to offer cash for keys. Let's try to push them through this, hardest hit fund, stuff along those lines. So set all that up during this phase and decide, okay, it's setting it up to scale.
I'm going to say the good part, too, is with Paperstac Next, we will have things like that, the internal tasks.
Yeah, you have internal tasks, be able to do a lot of that stuff.
That'd be cool.
And then finally, how are we going to keep the bankroll flush so I can buy more assets? So at that point, you're like, look, I need to grow my capital. I need to grow my firepower. How am I doing that? Am I taking on joint venture partners? Am I talking to my internal network of people? Am I at the country club, or am I talking to my local RIA, and I know there's some real estate investors there? Am I, I see this all the time, people who have self-directed retirement money that want to lend it out, and they're willing to lend it out to professionals in the note space, right?
That's exactly what Patrick does.
And they'll buy it. They'll go out and buy loans. Maybe they're owner financing it, creating a wrap, and then it gets paid off when it's sold. Or there's a lot of ways to raise your capital, but you need to decide: am I doing this now? And this is, again, we're going back and revisiting the investment strategy. What's our strategy now? And the strategy is going to change. It's going to meander. Maybe it might just stay focused, and you say, "This is what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I'm only buying these type of assets. I'm only investing with my own capital, or no, I'm getting in this to eventually I want to set up some sort of fund with the SEC or Reg D or Reg A, whatever that is. But you need to revisit your investment strategy, your investment thesis, because it will change. It likely will change. You may get into this and love the business and say, okay, I've got a really good grasp. A couple years into this, I've done a bunch of loans, a bunch of deals. I'm ready to make that next step. I want to set up a fund, or I want to start taking on a bunch of JV partners, or just a couple JV partners. The person providing the capital is as if not more important than the amount of capital you're getting. The wrong capital partner can absolutely ruin a deal.
I could see that.
So you want to do business with people that you want to do business with. You want to do business if people who are smart and can help you out, maybe. Or maybe you just want the quiet people who are like, look, just give me your money. But you have to be good stewards of the capital. But again, you're always going back, looking, how does this fall to my investment thesis, and what am I doing to raise the capital?
Interesting. All right, so
because you want to keep the bankroll, going.
I get it. So those are the stages of where you want to start.
Yeah. So
you started at
education, right? We educate.
Yep.
Learn the fundamentals. Practice.
You want to run the track.
Yep. Practice around the track. Then you want to say, okay, I'm going to lay out my investment thesis or my investment strategy. This is the route. This is what I'm going to do first. Here are the type of assets I'm going to buy. Am I business is this full time? Is this just a part-time supplemental? What kind of investing am I going to do? Am I brokering? Am I buying performing loans? I'm just coupon clipping, or I'm trying to get the house back. I'm looking for that competitive edge in the market to where I'm going to buy a non-performing loan and I'm getting to sign the house over and I'm going to go about it that way. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to go ahead, buy your first note, sourcing, talking to people. Still learning here. We're still learning how to communicate. We're still learning how to negotiate. We're still running numbers in real time now. Mm-hmm. They're real deals, they're real assets. Knowing what to ask for, that's big, right? Closing your first deal. That's all. It's all. You're just learning along the way. Paperstac helps with all that. Then you're working your deals. You're adding value to the assets. Mm-hmm. You're working the portfolio. Then you're working on
funding sources.
Yeah. Well, no, not funding sources yet. Then you're working on building out the business, building out the levers, making it scalable, right? The infrastructure. You're putting in infrastructure. You say, okay, I like this business. Let's go ahead and let's build something that,
How long can that take?
It's different for everybody. More deals you do, the more you know what you need, right? It's tough to build something. That's why you build for scale after you've done deals. You don't know what you need, mm-hmm. right? You don't know what you need unless you've done a deal.
Yeah.
Or two or three. The more deals you've done, you say, oh, we really need a way to communicate through it within our team, or I need a way to communicate with my assistant, or I need a way to track all the deals. I want to be able to look and see where am I with every deal with regards to, if it's in the foreclosure process, where is it? Are we at judgment? Are we just starting? Has a demand letter been issued? You want to have something to allow you to scale. We use Podio forever to do all that stuff.
I remember that.
Yeah. Huh. And once you've done that, you've got your business set to scale. Then you want to look at building the bankroll, and really every step along the way, you're probably looking at, am I on my investment strategy? Is this what I want to do? Or does this need to be tweaked a little bit on the next purchase?
It's very, very structured. That's good with the way you set it up.
It's pretty structured. That's what you were wanting, right? Something really structured.
No, I do. I like it. It's very structured. I mean, that's in my head. I'm structured, but I never really talked it through like that.
You have to talk it through, and you have to. Some people have to talk through it. Some people have to listen to it. Some people have to see it.
Yeah, I like to put it in checklists.
So who's going to ask for the checklist in the comments?
I'm going to create one because that's needed. But we're going to put it in the academy. So we might.
It'll be in the academy.
Yeah, the academy's with all the other stuff, such as the simulators.
Great.
We have a bunch of new case studies. We were given case studies gifted by Jamie Bateman. Jamie Bateman.
Really?
Yeah. So he had a couple in his book. And of course, I talk, there's a big link, go learn more from Jamie Bateman, but also about his servicing company. But he, we were talking back and forth. He's like, I got a bunch of case studies. And I was like, can I use them? And he said, sure. So it's cool. We have the case studies that he breaks down. And so we're adding more stuff every month. So now we're going to be adding checklists. So it's pretty robust. So if you are still wanting to learn.
Building it out.
Yep. So this is going to run long. But I guess that's pretty much it for this one.
That should do it. I guess if you're in Vegas, this will drop after we're in Vegas.
Yes, it'll be the week after. And so.
All right. Well, hope we saw you there.
Yeah. We're about to take off and go to the Sphere. Shh, don't tell my wife.
They don't listen. My wife doesn't watch this.
No, mine doesn't either. But
no, they're like, it's so boring, you two. They're like, really? People like us, like the banter. They're like, no, you two are.
They're just being nice.
They're like, yeah, they are. They are. So, anyways, well, that's it for this edition of the Paperstac podcast. Yeah, that's it. You want to take us out? Take us out.
That's it. We'll see you on the next one. If you got a question of your own, something you want to learn, that's where we're always getting this information for the podcast. So we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you on the next one. See ya.